The spaceship moved through the dark like a ghost. Nobody could see it because it had special hiding technology. The ship was huge and looked like a giant jellyfish floating in space. Its skin glowed with blue light that pulsed like a heartbeat. 3 alien creatures worked inside the ship in a room full of strange machines and bright lights. Dr. Krell was nervous. He kept touching his breathing mask and looking at the human on the metal table. The human was a man about 30 years old with black hair and dirty work clothes. His name was Wu Jin, and he came from a human colony on a faraway planet. The aliens had taken him while he was working in the mines deep underground. Dr. Yex was the boss of the 3 aliens. She had 4 arms and moved them very fast over the glowing computer screens. Her skin was see-through so you could see her insides moving. Her eyes were big and black like marbles. She made clicking sounds when she talked, which a machine changed into words the human could understand. The 3rd alien was Dr. Vell. He was bigger than the other 2, and he thought he knew everything about fear. He had helped his people take over many planets by making other creatures so scared they could not fight back. Every living thing they had ever met could be controlled by fear. It was their best weapon. Wu Jin started to wake up. The bright lights made him squint his eyes. The alien machines hummed and buzzed around him, making strange music. He tried to move his arms and legs, but they were held down by metal bands. He did not panic or shout. Instead, he looked around the room like he was trying to solve a puzzle. His brain started working like a computer, figuring out where he was and what was happening. The room was very clean and white. Everything looked like it was made of smooth metal or glass. There were no windows, but there were screens everywhere, showing numbers and pictures he could not understand. The air smelled funny, like medicine mixed with something sweet. The 3 aliens stood far away from him like they were afraid he might bite them. Dr. Krell moved backwards when he saw the human was awake. Most creatures they caught would scream or cry or try to break free. This human just lay there looking at everything with calm eyes like he was visiting a museum. It made Dr. Krell feel worried in his stomach. The human is awake. Dr. Krell said to the others, "Should we start the fear tests?" Now Dr. Yex checked her machines again. The numbers on her screens showed that the human's brain was working normally. His heart was beating at a normal speed and his breathing was steady. This was very strange because most creatures were already scared just from waking up in an alien place. "Can you understand us?" Human Dr. Yex asked through her talking machine. Wu Jin turned his head to look at her. "Yes, I can understand you. My name is Park Wu Jin. I work as an engineer in the mines. Why did you bring me here?" The 3 aliens looked at each other with surprise. Most creatures they caught were too scared to talk or ask questions. This human was talking to them like they were having a normal conversation at work. His voice was calm, and he did not sound angry or afraid. Dr. Vell stepped closer to the table. He was sure this human was just pretending not to be scared. All creatures felt fear when they were in danger. It was the most basic rule of life. You are here to help us with our science. We study how different creatures react to fear. This helps us take over planets more easily. You do not have to help us, but it would be nice if you did. Wu Jin thought about this for a moment. "I see. You want to use fear as a weapon that is actually very smart, but not very nice." He looked around the room again, studying the machines and the aliens. "What kind of tests do you want to do?" Dr. Krell could not believe what he was hearing. The human was not begging for his life or promising to do whatever they wanted. Instead, he was asking questions like a student in school. The breathing mask on Dr. Krell's face started making more noise because he was getting more nervous. "Maybe the drugs we gave him broke his brain," Dr. Krell whispered to the others. "Maybe he cannot feel fear anymore. That is impossible." Dr. Yex said, looking at her screens. "His brain looks completely normal. The fear parts are working fine." Wu Jin watched them talk and could tell they were confused. This made him even more curious about them. He had always loved learning about new things, and these aliens were definitely new. As an engineer, he was used to solving problems, and right now his biggest problem was figuring out what these creatures wanted and how to survive. The aliens were tall and thin like stick insects. Their skin was clear like glass so he could see their green blood moving inside them. They had long fingers with too many joints and their heads were shaped like upside-down teardrops. Their eyes never blinked, which made them look like they were always staring. Dr. Fell tried to look scary and important. These humans are supposed to be easy to control. Our spies have been watching their colonies for months. They look weak and soft, not like warriors. But Wu Jin did not look weak even though he was tied down. His eyes were bright and alert and he kept looking around the room like he was memorizing everything. He seemed more interested than afraid, which made all three aliens feel uncomfortable. "You have been watching us," Wu Jin said. "That explains how you knew where to find me. You must have very good technology to stay hidden from our sensors." Dr. Yex found herself answering his question, even though she had not planned to. "Yes, we have been studying your people for some time. We thought you would be easy to conquer like all the others." "How many others?" Wu Jin asked. "We have taken over 43 different planets," Dr. Vell said proudly. "Each time we used fear to make them surrender without fighting. It is much easier than using weapons." Wu Jin nodded, like he understood. "That makes sense from a practical point of view. Fear is cheaper than bombs and you do not have to rebuild everything afterwards. Very efficient." The way he talked about their conquests like it was just another engineering problem made the aliens feel strange. They were used to their prisoners crying or begging, not giving them compliments on their strategy. Dr. Krell was getting more worried by the minute. This human was not acting right at all. Maybe they had made a mistake. Maybe humans were different from other creatures in ways they did not understand. The machines in the room started beeping and showing new numbers. Dr. Yex looked at the screens and saw that the human's brain was getting more active, not less. He was thinking harder now that he was awake and talking, which was the opposite of what usually happened. "We should begin the testing." Dr. Vell said he wanted to prove that this human was just like all the others deep down. All living things could be broken. By fear, it was just a matter of finding the right kind of fear to use. Dr. Yex started preparing their special fear gas. It was their most powerful weapon, a mixture of chemicals that attacked the brain directly. When creatures breathed it in, they became so terrified they could not think or move. It had never failed to work on any species they had tested. Wu Jin watched them getting ready and felt curious about what would happen next. He had always wondered what it would be like to meet aliens, and now he was finding out. It was not exactly how he had imagined it, but it was still fascinating. The three aliens did not know that they were about to discover something that would change everything they thought they knew about fear and courage, and what it meant to be human. They thought they were just testing another weak creature, but they were actually about to meet something they had never encountered before, someone who was not afraid of being afraid. Dr. Vell moved to a big machine in the corner of the room. This machine looked like a metal tree with many branches coming out of it. Each branch had a different colored liquid inside glass tubes. The liquids bubbled and moved like they were alive. Some glowed in the dark and others changed colors as they moved. "This is our most powerful fear maker," Dr. Vell said to the other aliens. He touched the machine with great care, like it was made of precious gold. "We have tested this on 43 different kinds of creatures and it works on all of them. Even the bravest warriors become crying babies when they smell this gas." The machine started making soft humming sounds as Dr. Vell worked on it. He mixed different liquids together in a special chamber. The mixture turned into a gas that was almost impossible to see. It looked like heat waves rising from hot ground on a summer day. But there was something wrong about it that made you want to look away. Wu Jin watched everything they were doing. With great interest, he tried to see how the machine worked and what chemicals they were using. His engineering brain wanted to understand every part of the process. Even though he was tied to a table and about to be used as a test subject, he could not stop being curious about their technology. "Before you start," Wu Jin said, "can you tell me how your fear gas works? I studied chemistry in school and I would love to know what makes it so effective." Dr. Yex looked surprised that the human was asking questions about the thing that was supposed to terrify him. Most creatures begged for mercy or tried to bargain for their lives. This human wanted a science lesson. She found herself wanting to answer him even though it seemed crazy. "The gas has 17 different chemicals in it," Dr. Yex explained. Each chemical attacks a different part of the brain that controls fear. When you breathe it in, your mind becomes flooded with terror and you cannot think clearly anymore. Your body freezes up and you become helpless. That is amazing, Wu Jin said like he was talking about a beautiful sunset. You have created a universal panic button. The chemistry must be incredibly complex to work on so many different species. Have you considered the medical applications? This could help treat people who have too much fear in their daily lives. Dr. Krell started breathing faster through his mask. The human was discussing their ultimate weapon like it was a helpful medicine, instead of something that would destroy his mind. Why is the creature not afraid of what is about to happen to it? He whispered to the others. Maybe it does not understand what fear means. Dr. Vell suggested, though he was starting to doubt himself. All creatures understand fear. It is the most basic emotion that keeps things alive. The fear gas machine finished mixing the chemicals and was ready to use. Dr. Vell picked up a spray bottle that was connected to the machine by a long tube. The bottle looked like something used to water plants, but Wu Jin could see that it was much more complicated than it appeared. We will spray this directly at your face, Dr. Vell announced. You will breathe it in, and then you will experience terror beyond anything you have ever imagined. You will see your worst nightmares come to life and you will beg us to make it stop. Wu Jin nodded politely. Thank you for the warning. That was very considerate of you. The three aliens stared at him in shock. No creature had ever thanked them for explaining how they were about to be tortured. This human was acting more and more strange with each passing moment. Dr. Vell raised the spray bottle and pointed it at Wu Jin's face. He pressed the trigger and a cloud of the shimmering gas shot out, covering the human's head completely. The gas was so thick that they could not see Wu Jin's face for several seconds. All three aliens leaned forward, waiting to hear the screams that always came when creatures breathed in their fear gas. They expected to see Wu Jin thrashing against his restraints and crying for his mother like so many others had done before him. But instead of screams, they heard something that made their blood turn cold. Wu Jin was taking deep, slow breaths like he was doing meditation exercises. His chest rose and fell in a steady rhythm that showed he was completely calm and relaxed. When the gas cloud cleared, they could see his face clearly. He was smiling. Not the twisted smile of someone who had gone crazy from fear, but a genuine happy smile like someone who had just tasted something delicious. His eyes were bright and clear, showing no signs of panic or terror at all. That is quite refreshing, Wu Jin said in the same calm voice he had been using all along. There is a cool, minty feeling when I breathe it in and I can taste something like flowers. Is that lavender? The chemical mixture is very interesting. I can feel it trying to affect my brain, but it is not quite working. The way you intended, Dr. Vell dropped the spray bottle, and it clattered on the metal floor. The sound echoed through the quiet room like thunder. All three aliens stood frozen in place, unable to believe what they were seeing. This is impossible, Dr. Yex whispered as she checked her machines over and over. Again, the gas concentration is at maximum strength. No living creature should be able to resist it. The numbers on her screens showed that Wu Jin had breathed in enough fear gas to paralyze a dozen warriors. His blood had absorbed the chemicals, and they were circulating through his entire body. But instead of triggering massive fear responses, the chemicals seemed to be having no effect at all. Dr. Krell backed away from the examination table until he hit the wall behind him. His own fear was starting to take control of his mind. What kind of monster have we captured? He stammered. How can any creature be immune to our most powerful weapon? Wu Jin looked at each of the aliens with concern. You all seem very upset. Are you feeling all right? I know this result was not what you expected, but science is full of surprises. That is what makes it so exciting. Dr. Vell tried to pull himself together and think like a scientist, instead of a frightened child. Maybe the human has some kind of natural immunity. He suggested we should try other methods to trigger its fear response. Good idea, Wu Jin agreed enthusiastically. I would be very interested to see what other techniques you have developed. You have obviously put a lot of research into this. Field Dr. Yex activated another machine that projected images directly into Wu Jin's brain. The images were designed to trigger the deepest, most primitive fears that all living creatures shared. Pictures of being eaten alive, of falling from great heights, of being buried alive, and of being completely alone in the dark. Wu Jin watched the images with the same scientific interest he had shown for everything else. "The visual quality is excellent," he commented. "These projections are much clearer than our human hologram technology. How do you achieve such realistic detail?" He continued to provide commentary on each terrifying image like he was reviewing an art show instead of experiencing his worst nightmares. The aliens tried louder sounds, brighter lights, and even direct electrical stimulation of his brain. Nothing worked. Every test they performed met with the same result. Wu Jin would observe their efforts with curiosity, often suggesting ways they could improve their techniques or explaining why certain approaches might be more effective on human psychology. As the hours passed, the three alien scientists began to realize that they had encountered something completely outside their understanding. This human was not just resistant to fear, he seemed to find their experiments genuinely interesting and educational. Dr. Vell slumped against his workstation, feeling defeated for the first time in his long career. If this human is typical of his species, then our plans to conquer their worlds are doomed. We cannot control creatures that do not feel fear. But Wu Jin was not finished surprising them yet. The alien scientists worked through the night trying every fear method they had ever invented. They used sounds that could drive creatures insane, lights that burned into the deepest parts of the brain, and even machines that sent electric shocks directly into fear centers. But nothing worked on the human called Wu Jin daughter. Yex tried a machine that made sounds so low that most creatures could not hear them with their ears, but their bones would shake and their hearts would race with terror. She pointed the machine at Wu Jin and turned it to maximum power. "The subsonic frequencies are very interesting," Wu Jin said, as the invisible sound waves hit him. "But you might want to make them louder. Human ears work best when they hear sounds between 2,000 and 5,000 vibrations per second. That would be much more effective for causing psychological reactions." Dr. Yex found herself writing down his suggestions even though she knew it was crazy. Here was their test subject, giving them advice on how to torture his own species more effectively. But his scientific knowledge was impressive, and his suggestions actually made sense. "Why are you helping us improve our weapons against humans?" Dr. Yex asked. "You know, we plan to use this knowledge to conquer your people." Wu Jin thought about her question carefully. "Knowledge by itself is not good or bad," he said. "It is how people use knowledge that makes it helpful or harmful. Besides, if I understand your methods better, maybe I can help my people defend against them." This answer made the aliens even more confused. They had captured warriors who fought bravely, even when afraid. They had met religious fanatics who welcomed death for their beliefs, but they had never encountered a being who seemed completely unable to experience terror. Dr. Vell decided to try a different approach. "Maybe the human needs more personal fear," he said. "Computer scan the subject's memories and create a nightmare based on his deepest fears." The ship's advanced computer systems looked deep into Wu Jin's brain and found his memories of working in the dangerous mines. The computer built a realistic hologram around him that showed a mining tunnel collapsing. The sounds of breaking rock and screaming workers filled the air as the ceiling began to fall down on top of him. But instead of fear, Wu Jin's face showed intense concentration and professional interest. "The structural engineering is completely wrong," he said. "Studying the falling rock does not break that way under those kinds of pressure. The support beams are also placed incorrectly. The alien is analyzing the technical accuracy of its own worst nightmare." Dr. Krell reported in complete disbelief. His fear response system is not working at all. As the holographic disaster continued around him, Wu Jin began explaining what had gone wrong and how the collapse could have been prevented. He spoke in a calm, educational voice like he was teaching a safety class to new miners. Instead of experiencing his greatest fear, the aliens turned off the hologram feeling totally defeated. Dr. Yex leaned against her workstation looking exhausted. "We need to understand how this is possible," she said. "No intelligent creature should be able to completely ignore their survival instincts." "Maybe," Wu Jin suggested helpfully, "you are making wrong assumptions about human psychology. We do not ignore fear. We just handle it differently than you expect. Dr. Vell moved closer to the examination, table desperate to understand. Explain how you handle fear. He demanded. Wu Jin made himself comfortable despite being tied down. Human civilization grew up surrounded by constant danger. He began. Natural disasters, wild animals, diseases, and wars were always threatening us to survive. We had to learn how to work effectively while being afraid. We learned to use fear as information instead of letting it stop us from thinking. He paused to organize his thoughts. When you sprayed that fear gas on me, my brain recognized it as an artificial chemical instead of a real danger. So instead of panicking, I became curious about how it worked. The unknown is not terrifying to humans. It is fascinating. This explanation sent waves of worry through the alien team. Their entire military was based on the idea that fear was a weakness that all intelligent species shared. If humans could simply choose not to be controlled by terror, it meant everything they believed about conquest was wrong. Dr. Krell, breathing mask, made rattling sounds as his anxiety reached new levels. If this human's response is normal for his species, then our invasion plans for their colonies would be completely disastrous. Dr. Yex finished quietly. We would be fighting an enemy that cannot be broken by our primary weapon. But Wu Jin was not finished teaching them about human nature. You see fear differently than we do, he continued. You think fear is something that stops creatures from fighting back. But for humans, fear is often what makes us fight harder. When we are afraid for our families or our homes, we become more dangerous, not less. The aliens had never considered this possibility. In their experience, fear always led to surrender. They had built their entire society around this single assumption. Now they were learning that assumption might be fatally flawed. Dr. Vell tried one more desperate experiment. He activated a machine that could read thoughts and project them as images around the room. Show us what you fear most, human, he commanded. The machine scanned Wu Jin's mind and began projecting images of what it found. But instead of monsters or death or pain, the images showed broken machines and unsolved engineering problems, collapsed bridges, with people trapped underneath, and mathematical equations that had no answers. Wu Jin looked at the images with interest. Those are some of my biggest challenges at work, he said. The bridge design has been giving me trouble for months. I have been trying to figure out how to make it stronger without using more expensive materials. Dr. Krell stared at the images in shock. This human fears failure and incompetence more than death, he reported to the others. His greatest terror is not being able to solve problems and help people. This revelation hit the aliens like a physical blow. They finally understood that they were dealing with a completely different kind of intelligence. Humans did not fear death or pain, or the unknown. They feared being useless, being unable to protect others, and being unable to learn and grow. Dr. Yex realized that everything her people thought they knew about intelligent life was wrong. These humans were not just immune to fear weapons. They had evolved beyond the basic survival instincts that controlled every other species the aliens had encountered. We have made a terrible mistake, Dr. Vell said, his voice shaking with his own fear. This species is not suitable for conquest through terror. They are something we have never encountered before. What are they? Dr. Krell asked, though he was afraid to hear the answer. They are truly intelligent beings. Wu Jin answered for them. Intelligence means being able to think clearly even when you are afraid. It means choosing your actions based on knowledge instead of instinct. Your species uses fear as a tool to control others, but that only works on creatures who let fear control them. The aliens stood in silence as the full meaning of his words sank in. They had spent so long being masters of fear that they had forgotten what it meant to be truly intelligent themselves. They had become slaves to their own weapon, unable to imagine any other way of dealing with other species. And now they had awakened something in the galaxy that might teach them a better way or destroy them for their past crimes. The choice would soon be theirs to make. As the three alien scientists tried to understand what they had discovered, Wu Jin continued watching their behavior with the same careful attention he used to study broken machines. His engineering training had taught him to find weak points in complex systems. And he was beginning to see that these aliens had a critical weakness of their own. "You are afraid?" he said quietly, using a gentle voice instead of an accusing one. "You have built your entire civilization around the idea that fear controls everything, and now you are learning that idea might be wrong." Dr. Vell jumped back like he had been hit by lightning. "We do not experience fear," he said quickly. "We are the masters of fear. We have conquered 43 star systems by using fear as our weapon. 43 species." "Yes, you mentioned that," Wu Jin interrupted calmly. "But conquering others by exploiting their weaknesses only works until you meet someone who does not have that weakness. What happens to conquerors when their main weapon becomes useless?" The question hung in the air like poison gas. The three aliens looked at each other with growing panic in their large black eyes. Their antennae twitched in patterns that Wu Jin was learning meant they were very upset. Dr. Yex was the first to speak. "The human asks questions that threaten everything our society believes in," she said. "Maybe we should kill him before he causes more problems." "No," Dr. Creel said, even though his breathing mask was making more noise than ever. "We need to understand this strange creature. If there are others like him, we must find ways to fight them." Wu Jin smiled again with that same calm expression that had been bothering his captors since he first woke up. "There are billions like me," he said. "Every human child learns to face their fears, to question the unknown, and to find courage when things get scary. It is not something wrong with my genes. It is something we teach all our children." The weight of this news hit the laboratory like a crashing spaceship. The aliens had thought they were studying one broken specimen, but Wu Jin was describing an entire species that had evolved beyond their primary weapon's effectiveness. Dr. Vell felt his confidence crumbling like a house made of sand. "If what you say is true, then our advanced scouts who have been watching human colonies for months are probably being watched in return." Wu Jin confirmed humans are naturally curious about new things, especially new forms of life. "Your hiding technology might fool your previous targets, but humans have been developing ways to find things that do not want to be found for thousands of years." Just then, the communication systems in the laboratory began making loud beeping sounds. An urgent message was coming in from somewhere else. The voice that came through the speakers spoke in rapid, panicked alien language, reporting massive human military movements across multiple star systems. Dr. Yex translated the message for Wu Jin, even though she did not have to. Her voice sounded hollow and defeated. "Our fleet commanders are asking for immediate evacuation," she said. "The humans have somehow detected our entire invasion force and are moving ships to surround us." "That would be," Admiral Li Su-min, Wu Jin said with obvious pride in his voice. "She has probably been tracking your ships for months, waiting to see what you were planning. She is a brilliant military strategist. She was my academy roommate's sister, actually." The casual way he mentioned knowing the enemy military commander sent another shockwave through the alien team. This human was not just immune to their fear weapons. He was part of a vast network of people who shared information and worked together. Across the distances between stars, Dr. Krell breathing apparatus made frantic wheezing sounds as he realized the full scope of their mistake. "We have made a terrible error," he gasped. "This species is not suitable for conquest through fear. They are actually dangerous to us." "Dangerous," Dr. Vell repeated, his own fear finally breaking through his professional training. "They are the first species we have encountered that might actually be dangerous to us." Wu Jin nodded with understanding. "Fear can be a useful survival tool when you use it correctly," he said. "But when it becomes your only tool, you become vulnerable to anyone who has learned to master their fear instead of being controlled by it." The communication system erupted with more desperate reports from the alien fleet. Human ships were appearing throughout their battle formation, using stealth technology that the aliens had not been able to detect. The humans had achieved complete tactical surprise, but the strangest part of all was that the humans were not attacking. They had surrounded the entire invasion fleet and were just waiting. They are not firing their weapons. Dr. Yex reported with confusion in her voice. "The human fleet has achieved total superiority, but they seem to be offering our commanders a chance to surrender." Wu Jin nodded like this was exactly what he had expected. That is very human behavior, he said. We prefer to solve conflicts without unnecessary killing when possible. Admiral Lee is probably hoping to start diplomatic talks instead of beginning an interstellar war. This concept was so alien to their way of thinking that all three scientists fell silent. Their species had never encountered an enemy that offered mercy from a position of strength. It was another aspect of human psychology that did not fit any of their models. Dr. Vell approached the examination table with new respect. Your species could have destroyed our fleet, he said, but instead they offered to talk. Why would they do such a thing? Because Wu Jin explained patiently, destroying your fleet would only teach us about your military technology. Talking to you might teach us about your culture, your science, and your art. Knowledge is always more valuable than conquest. He gestured, as much as his restraints allowed toward the laboratory equipment around them. Even this situation, as unpleasant as it is for me, has been educational. I have learned about your technology, your social structure, and your basic assumptions about the nature of fear and intelligence. Dr. Krell antenna drooped with something that looked like shame. We have treated you like a laboratory animal when you are clearly a thinking being who deserves respect. Yes, Wu Jin agreed simply without anger. But I understand why you made that mistake. When your main way of interacting with other species is to terrorize them, it becomes hard to recognize their intelligence and dignity. The communication system made more noise this time with a message directed specifically at their research ship. A female voice filled the laboratory, speaking in accented but fluent alien language. Attention, alien research vessel. This is Admiral Lee Su-min of the Human Colonial Defense Force. We have detected the kidnapping of one of our citizens, Park Woo-jin, a mining engineer from Kepler 442b. We are prepared to discuss terms for his safe return and the establishment of formal diplomatic relations between our species. Dr. Yex stared at the communication panel in amazement. They learned our language, she whispered. How did they learn our language so quickly? Probably from monitoring your communications over the past few months, Wu. Jin suggested Admiral Lee has a gift for learning alien languages. She speaks 12 different languages fluently. The aliens looked at each other as their entire worldview continued to collapse around them. This human species not only resisted their fear weapons and detected their stealth technology, but they had also been studying alien culture and language while being studied themselves. They were not the hunters in this situation. They had become the prey. Dr. Vell moved to the communication panel with hands that shook like leaves in the wind. His entire understanding of the universe had been turned upside down in just a few hours. Admiral Lee, this is Dr. Vell aboard the research vessel. He said, your citizen is unharmed and will be returned immediately. We request permission to open diplomatic talks. Permission granted, Dr. Vell, came the calm reply. We look forward to learning about your people and sharing knowledge of our own. However, we will need to discuss the ethics of biological research and the concept of informed consent. As the aliens began removing the metal restraints that held Wu Jin to the examination table, he sat up slowly and stretched his arms and legs to get the feeling back into them. You know, he said in a conversational tone, this could be the beginning of something remarkable. Dr. Yex paused in her work, confused by his positive attitude. Your fear research applied ethically could help treat anxiety disorders and phobias. Wu Jin continued. Combined with human psychological techniques, we might be able to help species that have been traumatized by conflict. You would help us, Dr. Yex asked in amazement. After what we have done to you? Wu Jin shrugged in a very human gesture that somehow expressed both forgiveness and practical wisdom. Holding grudges is a waste of energy that could be better spent solving problems. Besides, fear is just another puzzle to be understood and overcome. That is what humans do. We turn obstacles into opportunities. The research vessel began moving toward the human fleet for a rendezvous meeting. Dr. Krell watched the approaching ships on his screen and marveled at their sleek designs. The human ships looked nothing like the bulky warships his people built. Instead, they appeared to be designed for exploration and scientific research with weapons added almost as an afterthought. Admiral Lee's voice came through the communication system again. Dr. Vell, we are transmitting detailed information. about human customs and diplomatic protocols to help make our first meeting more comfortable for everyone. We understand that first contact between species can be stressful. Dr. Vell stared at the incoming data streams the humans were sending them, instruction manuals on how to interact peacefully. It was like they had done this many times before, even though this was supposed to be first contact between their species. How many other alien species have you met? Woojin, Dr. Krell asked. We have established peaceful relationships with 7 different species. So far, Woojin replied. Each one taught us something new about the universe and about ourselves. The galaxy is full of fascinating cultures and technologies just waiting to be discovered. 7 species, Dr. Yex repeated weakly. We have conquered 43, but you have befriended 7. Conquest and friendship require different skills. Woojin explained. Conquest only teaches you about fear and weakness. Friendship teaches you about hope and strength. We prefer to learn about strength. The human fleet came into view through the laboratory windows, and the aliens gasped at what they saw. The ships were not arranged in attack formations. Instead, they formed a protective circle around the alien research vessel like they were escorting an honored guest rather than a captured enemy. Dr. Vell realized that everything he thought he knew about power and dominance was wrong. These humans had achieved total military victory, but they were treating their defeated enemies with respect and kindness. It was a concept so foreign to his experience that his brain struggled to process it. Admiral Lee appeared on the main viewing screen. She was a woman in her 40s with kind eyes and a warm smile. She wore a simple uniform without the elaborate decorations that alien commanders usually displayed to show their importance. Greetings, Dr. Vell and colleagues, she said. I am Admiral Lee Su-min. I hope we can work together to turn this unfortunate misunderstanding into the beginning of a beneficial relationship between our peoples. Dr. Vell found himself standing straighter in the presence of this human leader, even though she had not tried to intimidate him at all. There was something about her calm confidence that commanded respect without demanding it. We are honored to meet you, Admiral Lee, he said, surprising himself with his sincerity. We have much to learn about diplomatic relations, Doctor. Yex stepped forward hesitantly. Admiral, we must confess that our people have used fear as a weapon to conquer other species. We are not sure how to interact with others in peaceful ways. Admiral Lee nodded with understanding. Many species go through periods of aggressive expansion. He said it is a natural phase of development. The important thing is learning to grow beyond it. We would be happy to help you explore alternatives to conquest. Woojin stood up from the examination table and walked over to join the conversation. The most important thing to remember, he said, is that every species has something valuable to offer. The universe is big enough for everyone to find their place without taking it away from others. Doctor. Krell removed his breathing mask for the first time. Since Woojin had awakened, his face showed wonder and hope instead of fear. Perhaps our species has been thinking too small, he said. We focused on taking what others had built instead of building something new ourselves. Admiral Lee smiled warmly. That is exactly the kind of thinking that leads to great discoveries, she said. We have scientific exchange programs with all our allied species. Each partnership has led to advances that none of us could have achieved alone. The communication between the ships continued for hours as both sides shared information and began planning for formal diplomatic meetings. The aliens learned about human culture science and philosophy, while the humans gained insights into alien technology and different ways of thinking. Dr. Vell found himself looking forward to the future for the first time in years. Instead of planning the next conquest, his people could focus on exploration and discovery. They could become partners in understanding the universe, instead of conquerors trying to dominate it. As the research vessel docked with Admiral Lee flagship Woojin, prepared to return to his own people. But he had one more lesson to share with his former captors. Fear is not your enemy, he told them. Fear is just information telling you that something important is at stake. The key is learning to listen to that information without letting it control your actions. When you master fear instead of being mastered by it, you become truly free. Dr. Yex. Dr. Krell and Dr. Vell watched as Woojin walked toward the docking bay to rejoin his people. They had started the day believing they were superior beings studying an inferior species. They ended it knowing they had met teachers who would help them become better than they ever imagined possible. The galaxy suddenly seemed much larger and much more wonderful than it had that morning, and for the first time in their species' history, the three alien scientists looked forward to tomorrow, not because they would conquer something new, but because they would learn something new. Fear had been their weapon, but hope would be their freedom.